What is the worst advice you've ever received? I was bullied all throughout middle and high school. I dropped out halfway through my sophomore year, then went back after working a summer. Former bully tried it again, and I just shouted FOFF in his face. He was so surprised. Thus ended 8+ years of torment. He never tried anything again. I dropped out again though, got my GED, went to college and did well. I'm good now. ADHD plus meds equals functional adult. Had this happen in elementary school, was being bullied early on by the same kid. Principal saw me a lot as a result and eventually told me, "Brown whiskey, you're much bigger than him. Stand up for yourself." So I did. Next time he was picking on I hit him in the stomach and was never bullied again. The flip side is learning that at a young age I started being physical to get my way and became a bully instead for a couple of years. I think I regret being that kid more than I would have for not standing up to the bully. Silver lining, I went on to become great lifelong friends with the kid I bullied. Life is strange. When I was an aspiring educator, I received a lot of scary advice about how school teachers should run a classroom from people who were well-intended, but were completely out of touch. The most memorable was from a woman who had been a special education teacher for years, and her nugget of wisdom was to never say sorry to a student and never admit you're wrong. My philosophy as a teacher could never be more opposite. Same. I teach 12th grade modern history. I always start out the year with, "Look, this class covers 500 years. I don't know everything. I have certain areas I specialize in, but others I know barely anything beyond what we cover in class. Some of you probably know more about certain areas than me. If I make a mistake or want to add some detail, go for it and raise your hand. I'm happy to learn things. Just don't be offended if I look it up." In 1984 I was told by a friend's mom that computers were a fad and that I shouldn't major in computer science in college. I ignored that advice. It was obvious even then this was a crazy take. Edit. This was literally 1984. Van Halen wasn't really my scene though. I was more into new wave music at the time. You should let it pinch you. It won't hurt that much. It was the biggest crawdad I ever saw, and I was maybe like 10 fishing with my dad. He didn't think I would be stupid enough to do it, but I wanted to impress him. The chaos that then ensued. I picked it up and let it pinch the soft skin between my thumb and hand, promptly scream in pain. Dad, laughing his ass off, tried to help just to be pinched by the other claw on the back of his hand. This cycle of continuous pinching continues as we stupidity try to help one another. Then finally we get it removed and my dad says to body slam it, so I throw it as hard as I can back into the lake. Oh no 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 no, I can't imagine how bad it may have gone. That's a freaking life decision. Damn it. No, the worst is, my life is ruined, and precious time is wasted. Thank you not so very much. Edit. Thanks for sharing your experiences guys, really appreciate them all. It takes effort and lots of bravery to share something like this. So glad to hear some of you are safe and doing better now. Love you all and keep fighting. 3P.S. Also, I meant life being ruined in general because I know there are worse things, but I didn't want to specify them. And those worst things also indicate your life being ruined. It's always a happy occasion when someone pulls back from it, but sometimes others don't. So yes, lives ruined and precious time wasted. I scrapped someone's truck in our apartment complex a few weeks after I first got my license at 18. In my defense, he was very over the lines and it was the only available spot. Called my dad in a panic because I didn't know what to do. He told me to go park in the lot of the apartments next to us and just pretend nothing happened unless someone confronts me. New and inexperienced. I listened. Horrible advice. Someone saw it and the guy found which apartment I was in. He was pissed but more understanding when he realized I was just a kid. To a guy in his 40s, I guess 18 is a kid, and explain what happened. We worked insurance stuff out and I learned to never take my dad's advice. Edit. I should mention that I'm not considering 18 to be fully matured. I'm currently 24 and 18-year-olds definitely seem younger than they did when I was 18. I guess I consider kids to be more like people I wouldn't trust to leave home alone. That said, they are just as stupid as kids sometimes, like when they hit a truck and then take their dad's advice to do nothing and hope I don't get in trouble. Went to the GP with my 10-mo son who had been struggling with a cold for a while and wasn't improving. She told me to rub Vicks on his throat, because it is absorbed through the skin, and to make him vomit to bring up phlegm. Later that day he was admitted to hospital with bronchiolitis. I refused to see her for any reason until recently when I didn't have a choice, and she gave me the same shitty advice for a sinus infection I'd had for 3 weeks. Not advice but something similar to this. My brother and his fiancée were expecting twins and they were stillborn. A family friend told my brother multiple times at the funeral this is all part of God's plan and everything happens for a reason. I don't think there is a more tactless thing you can say after someone loses a child. Edit. A lot of replies about hitting the guy who said this. My brother and his fiancée were understandably a mess that day. I don't know if they remember what anyone said. I think you are so grief-stricken that nothing matters for a while. When my mom was dying in hospice, a coworker of mine told me I should at least let her family know, even though my mom told me she didn't care if they knew or not. Well, I let them know, and I definitely regretted it. The sister and her kids made it an entire dramatic ordeal and had to be removed from the room. Her brother didn't even call or text, just sent his dingbat wife who didn't even notice my mom had already passed. Haven't heard from either of them in the year since she's passed. My mom was right. I don't remember the context but some guy was arguing that he had a much greater insight into women than other people because he dated more than 100 women. So if he's in his 30s and he's been dating seriously since he's 20, that's more than 5 girls a year, and rather than proving the guys is some sort of ultra chad that has super insight into women, it just proved that on average no woman is willing to put up with his shit for more than a month or 2. My mom would do this to us a lot because, objectively, we had better childhoods than she had. And that's fair, but constantly reminding us of that fact did not help her relationship with us kids. Finally, as an adult, my sister told her she'd been terrible at helping us cope with the drama of growing up, and she started in with, "Well, of course I never thought your problems were serious, because when I was your age I had to, insert rant." So then I interrupted and said, "Mom, when a friend tells you their mother died, do you comfort them, or do you say buck up? Lots of people's mothers died today." And it finally clicked for her. Mom and I have a much better relationship now. Of course, that advice shouldn't be taken as an excuse to be lazy, but it can work. For me, I have anxiety and people like to bully me, so keeping other people's expectations of me low is a win. When they're either pleased when I succeed or yell at me less when I fail. And I fail a lot. For people less lame than me, it's good advice if you don't want a promotion and are comfortable in your position. To everything thinking everyone should strive and make that bank, remember that not everyone works at a Fortune 500 company and not everyone is money driven. With extra pay comes extra responsibility. In some circles, you just end up with the extra responsibility. Smile in your mugshot, because it's a picture that's gonna be out there forever. This can and will be used against you in a court of law. Prosecution. Exhibit A: the defendant's mugshot. This person is smiling. Does this look like the face of someone who is sorry, someone who is remorseful? Number: they are smiling despite the fact that they could have injured someone or worse. That is why we are seeking the maximum penalty, to show them that this is not something to be smiling about. Buckle up, cause things just get more difficult from here. If things get more difficult, I don't want to be alive anymore. I barely sleep. I'm working 50-60-hour weeks with crap pay. My home life is awful, and slowly, all the things I've looked forward to in life have been taken from me. The only thing that keeps from driving into the ocean is my cat. When someone is clearly struggling with their life, don't fucking tell them it gets worse. Edit. Thank you for all of the support. The awards and the kind comments are so much. Thanks to you all, I think today will be a good day. For all of you who are coming from the same mindset I am, I hope today will be a good day for you too. and that there are many more good days to come. I was in a really bad relationship in my late teens. We both were toxic and I was only there because he was my friend and I didn't want to hurt him and he kinda guilted me into it. I asked my evangelical mom for advice and she told me that since we were having sex, we should get married and it would sort itself out. I broke up with him after we got into a knockdown, drag-out fight when he tried to kill my cat, because I loved her more, and completely stopped asking my mother for relationship advice. Very similar situation here. Every supervisor, mentor in my chain of command tried to talk me out of marriage to a British girl I met while stationed there. We continued our relationship long distance after I got sent to Germany. One NCO bet me $50 at the time that we wouldn't last 6 months. We've made it 27 years together so far. Some bitch still hasn't paid up. I get why they tried to talk me out of it. I really do. I even had to counsel some young subordinates to make absolutely sure this is exactly what you want to do myself, but I also know firsthand that it isn't 100% doomed to failure. Similar story here. My uncle had a 4th grade education, had to quit school young to take care of his mom and siblings, ended up starting his own electrical contracting business after he got out of the military, put his little brother through college, who ended up becoming a nationally respected theater director. You'd never know it to look at him or even after you met him, but the man was loaded. Any strip mall, supermarket, restaurant, etc. that opened up in his town knew his name and used his services. Died relatively young, late 50s early 60s, with enough to support my aunt for years after, even without working for the last few years of his life due to kidney problems. There was this one time a very attractive girl from my hometown took an interest in me, and started messaging me on Facebook. She was the smart, good person, beautiful girl that was always in long relationships, absolutely not getting around, the kind of girl you would love to take home to your parents and who every guy wanted to be dating. Anyways, my fucking idiot friend was watching me talk to her, and was like, dude, you're doing it wrong. Let me take over, and completely submarine the conversation with a couple douchey, idiotic messages, and she stopped responding. And that was it. My chance with her was gone. I'll never forget his stupid face laughing about it like, haha, well, whatever dude, fuck you Dan. You just need to get over it and move on as advice to cope with experiencing sexual assault. Edit, for everyone asking, messaging me about how someone can heal from trauma like this, or other traumas and losses. There are several trauma researchers that discuss how trauma affects our bodies and the different modalities for treatment. The 3 that helped me the most are: 1. Bessel van der Kolk, The Body Keep the Score. 2. Peter A. Levine, Waking the Tiger, Healing Trauma. 3. Stephen W. Porges, The Polyvagal Theory, The Transformative Power of Feeling Safe. Treatment methods vary and our bodies respond differently based on our experiences, so it may take more than one approach and it may take more than one specialist, therapist to help. Know you are not alone and that your fellow survivors are cheering on your recovery. A friend of my mother's, close enough to be my aunt, talked me into applying for a credit card when I was 22 for the sole purpose of maxing it out, getting as many big toys as I could, and then filing for bankruptcy cause she said this country is so silly, threatening something like that when it just disappears a few years later. So I got the first CC offered, $25K limit with what I now know was the worst, most predatory APR, and I maxed it out on utter bullshit over the course of 2 years. It messed me up so bad, as she gradually devolved from funny cynical ex-hippie boomer to wheelchair-bound dementia patient. I started trying to build some semblance of a workable adult life, got married, had a kid, and that bankruptcy followed me into my mid-30s. Even though it's past me now and my credit score is finally in the mid-70s, I still have to divulge yes any time I'm asked by a bank or a lender about a bankruptcy in my history. I want to transport myself back in time as a now 50-year-old and kick my own ass right before I signed that form. My God, why do adults sometimes tell kids to do this kind of shit? Boomers, man. Funny enough, the only time that advice by stupid adults worked out for me turned to everyone from parents to teacher about a guy in elementary who would bully me and throw my things in trash with no explanation. They told me that same line. So after 3 years of that shit, I went up to him and was like, "It's okay, I understand. You like me and just can't express yourself." Of course he said, "EWWW, no, I hate you," and I told him, well, that's what the teachers and my mom are saying. They see you pull my hair and think it is the cutest thing ever. He never even talked to me again, and I only wish I had done so sooner. But like, only time that advice got me anywhere, cause I used it to reverse psyche my bully into fucking off. You have to do more. You're not progressing fast enough. I'm happy with the position, lifestyle I have, and with the progress I'm making. I am happy. Some people don't want to hear that you're happy. Some people only believe you're happy when you're on their level or when you're at the top. And for some people, you're never good enough and will never do enough. Listen to what makes you happy and cut out the toxic people as much as possible, folks. Don't bother getting the Japanese encephalitis jab, as it's really expensive and so rare nobody ever gets it. It's not worth the money. After less than 9% chance of survival at all, I am now permanently disabled. I can guarantee, even with free healthcare, the cost implications of not having that jab have cost more each month I've lived since roughly than the one-time cost of that jab. And that's just the financial cost. Not to mention losing my health, many friends, my coordination, a third of my vocabulary, my reliability, my memory, jobs, control, hobbies, energy, independence, the prospect of even a single day pain-free, my ability to plan for the future, my fertility, my immune system, my ability to fight, and my body to recognize cancer or harmful exposure, my family as any source of comfort, my desire to live like that. Just a couple examples there. Not just porn. People talk about it really casually, too. She let me put it in her butt, and that's it. At most, I've heard about needing a certain diet and showering or douching. No idea about how long prep actually takes. Otherwise, there's no information unless you seek it out. But just like trying to convince your FWB to wear a condom and the rise of ass eating, I assume there's a lot of unsafe and hot mess sex because everyone is in the dark and trying to stay there to maintain the terror of sexy. Sorry for rambling. I'm not young, just inexperienced and uncool. The thought of butt stuff in general freaks me out. All I can think of are germs, infections, pink eye, straight up poop, etc. And now there's pain. All because no one can be arsed to do the research or let a bitch know when to prep. I think people misuse that phrase a lot. Just be yourself is supposed to be used when you try to be different than you are. Say, to impress someone, you should be yourself, not play a role to fit in with others. That it's okay to be different than the rest. But others seem to use it as an excuse not to improve themselves. I'm just myself, they say while they aggressively talk to the waiter that takes 2 minutes too long for their taste. Not exactly bad advice, just badly used advice really. So this goes against my advice too, but there are exceptions when renting is better than buying, and it always depends on your own situation. Definitely buy if you plan to stay somewhere for a while and want a long-term investment, but renting is a viable option when you either can't get a place to own due to your own circumstances, aren't staying somewhere for a reasonable amount of time, and or don't care to put the effort in to later use the property to your advantage, i.e. renting to others or vacation home, or the markets are too volatile for your liking and renting is the better alternative. Even with these specific circumstances, I would still always recommend people to buy unless you literally have no option. I was told to count my lucky stars by a man who was fitting me for a splint. I had attempted suicide via overdose on sleeping pills and ended up with compartment syndrome, which basically means I cut off circulation in my arm by laying on my side for too long while I was overdosing. I spent an entire month in the hospital due to a cascade effect of organ failure. They had me in a medically induced coma for 2 weeks. Had to relearn how to walk, breath normal, talk, etc. Anyways, After 2 major surgeries I have a giant nasty scar as well as a few smaller ones from where the surgeon had to cut open to relieve the pressure. I literally couldn't move my left arm at all. My fingers were completely stiff and unmovable as well. As professional drummer, this was very depressing.